Well, good morning. How are you all today? And welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I should say right off, welcome to all the new people. We've had a bunch of new folks join us here. It's great to have you. Also, over on the Patreon channel, a lot of people joining over there. Great to have you there. I just put up something over there that kind of has something to do with what I'm going to talk about today, and that was Charlie Daniels' great song "South's Gonna Do It Again." uh, and somebody, Lana, one of our great patrons over there, also put a link to one of my other favorite songs by him, Simple Man. If you haven't heard him, listen to him. If you're on our Patreon channel, check him out and listen to the words. Okay, so I finally had a chance to catch up on some of the news and watch a couple of other channels, see what they're saying about everything that's going on down south with the storms, and I see also the dock workers have backed away from their strike at least until January 15th. There's reasons for that, right? Uh, this was all political. I won't get into that. The president of that union is a real piece of work, as so many union presidents are, right? Not the union guys. A lot of them are just fine folks, but the people who rise to the top, that float to the top, they're something else. And they hurt a lot of their own people. Anyway, I've had a chance to watch what's going on, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy investigator, and I have actually investigated actual criminal conspiracies. I know what a conspiracy is. I know what goes into it, and what we are witnessing now is an orchestrated attempt to destroy the South, the southeastern United States. They tried to do it once before. They tried to do it with the War of Northern Aggression. If there's anybody here who's kind of new and says, "What is this guy spouting off about? This sounds like some real hate-filled rhetoric." Oh no, I encourage you to study more, study beyond what you learned from that high school history teacher who learned from their high school history teacher that learned from a book that didn't include the truth. If you really want to get into it, read my books. I cover this a lot. Way back in it started in the 1830s, started before that, you could say. Don't worry, I'm not going to take you back for a long history lesson. But the South was being treated unfairly by Northern interests. They reached a point to where they couldn't take it anymore. Oh, yes, I know that many people out there say it was about slavery. If you still believe that, read my books and read more. Find out the truth. The truth will set you free, that's for sure. Take the red pill, right? Because until you know the truth, you can't deal with the reality of the world. So anyway, the South finally couldn't take it, and they seceded. They were no longer a part of the United States. And the United States under Lincoln, who was a bum. Well, I know his pictures hanging in all over the place in schools and things like that, but you need to read more about him if you still think he was a great guy. Read my books, right? So he drummed up a bunch of troops from the different northern states and sent them down to force these states which had seceded to rejoin the Union. Now, of course, it was totally illegal. They had separated, which was their constitutional right, from the United States. And so what he was doing was invading another country. Don't worry, I'm going to come back and explain exactly what's going on today and how it applies here. And he did that. And the end result was not just the decimation, which means a destruction of 10%, but a total destruction of the South. And when the war finally came to a conclusion, you've heard all about so-called Reconstruction. No, there was nothing reconstructed. It was an organized conspiracy and plan to make sure that the South never fully recovered from their insolence and wanting to be free from an oppressive government. Let's fast forward to now, shall we? The South was staunch Democrats for many, many years, for a century, really, after the Civil War, simply because Lincoln was a Republican. If you want some real interesting reading, study about the original KKK and why it was formed. Not recently, but back then. Well, over the years, and of course the South stayed Democrat, and it was corrupt Democrat politics that kept the South Democrat, because the South was poor. Not everybody in the South was poor. There were, a lot of extremely well-to-do people in the South, and they certainly had a culture that displayed the gentility of a great nation more than many other places. But as a result of the destruction after that war, it was a very poor area. And poor people tend to vote Democrat because Democrats tell them that they can't help themselves. Only the government can help them. And poor people tend to be ignorant, and they believe them. And this is why the Democrat Party has had a stranglehold on so many groups in our country. The poor, the uneducated, the less educated, shall I say. Well, of course, the people in the South are not ignorant as a whole. There are some ignorant people there, just like there's ignorant people everywhere, right? So I'm not painting everybody with the same brush. But over the years, they turned more to the conservative position, and they saw how they were being used, and the South has turned much more conservative and Republican. It's been a stronghold of the Republican Party for quite a while, except for the cities, except for the cities like Atlanta and Memphis and Nashville and places like that. Well, the reason that they had a stranglehold on those areas is because, first off, the Democrats, because of the lies that they had been feeding them, but as the South became more and more conservative, they were losing that as the South started voting Republican. But they still had a stronghold on the cities, like I said, Atlanta, Memphis, all that, which had large minority populations. So they were fine until the minority populations started seeing the truth, and they started coming over to the Republican Party. Well, they can't have that. And with the election coming up, they were afraid, and they had every right to be afraid, the Democrats, that they were going to lose this election. Now, I'm not going to say that I believe that weather technology was able to cause what happened from the hurricane and then the storms that have played such havoc over eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina and Georgia and all that. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I know that there will be some people leaving comments on here saying, well, it's kind of like, during Katrina when the people were yelling and screaming that who was it? Was it Jesse Jackson or one of those idiots? That George Bush turned on his hurricane machine and drove that hurricane right over the Ninth Ward. I don't know. Could be. Beats me. Probably some of you know more about that than I do, so I won't express an opinion. But what I do know is that after the devastation, the non-response from our government has cost many, many lives and billions of dollars of damage and homes lost, lives lost, businesses lost. And I've seen it, the worst FEMA. FEMA doesn't have any money because they gave it to all of the invaders that they've brought in to destroy our country. So they don't have the money for Americans, money that they took from those Americans through taxes, and gave it to put up illegal aliens in fancy hotels and give them sex change operations and let them, attack our women and our kids and things like that. Guys, who's the enemy? Let me just ask that right there. Who is the enemy? Now, I'm going to caution you. Don't leave any comments that say anything about, the kind of things. Okay, because I'll have to take them off because they would endanger the channel. We're just being smart here. Okay. So they don't have any money. And FEMA, where is FEMA? I guess they're in their hotel rooms having meetings. Excuse me. I put up a meme over on the American Reversion Patreon channel with the backs. It's supposed to look like Harris and Biden, looking out over the flooded areas, and the woman being Kamala says, we can't help them. We sent all of our money to Ukraine. And the guy that's supposed to be Biden says, it doesn't matter. They were going to vote for Trump anyway. Now, they're trying to kill the South. They're trying to destroy the South. Make no mistake about that. Because the South has become a Republican, a conservative stronghold, because the South holds on. Probably, the South and the West and the Midwest and all that. We know that we're simply opposed by the Northeast and the West Coast, right? But every place else in America holds to those traditional values of God and family and good work ethic and self-reliance and caring for their neighbors and things like that. Well, they can't have that. And if they can take out a whole section of that, they're going to not just win this election, they're going to establish their control more completely. Excuse me, half a second. My nose itched. One of you must be talking about me. So, it's not by their non-response they have responded. If you are walking past the lake and you see somebody drowning out there and you don't help them, you have killed them. Now you might say, well, I didn't kill them, I just didn't help them. That's killing them. Okay, that's allowing them to die. And that's exactly what the Democrats are doing now. They want to destroy the South, and they want to destroy the South for generations. What's it going to take to rebuild what's been lost in the South? Well, nothing's going to bring back the lives that have been lost. But what's it going to take to rebuild those areas? It's going to take decades, maybe generations. It might wipe out whole sections of populations. There might be people moving out of those areas and going other places, which reduces the electoral power of those areas. You see what I mean? I mentioned in the one I did a couple of days ago about my family was from South Carolina and Georgia. And after that war, Northern aggression, the South was so destroyed, we moved up, came through Tennessee, and finally to Missouri, where some of us ended up in eastern Kansas. That's the same thing that could happen. And believe me, this is what they're thinking. If they can allow that by their inaction, they are destroying an entire section of our country. Now, let me ask a question. We've talked many times about, or many people have, what's it going to take for the people to rise up? And I've always said it takes enough people being upset enough at the same thing at the same time. Then it needs a national leader. Then it needs a martyr. Those are the three things that come together to cause a rising up. We'll just say, I'm not gonna be any more clear than that, and don't anybody else out there say anything, because you know what we're talking about, right? Okay. Don't give me a reason. Don't make me have to remove a comment in order to keep the channel safe. You know, because we're smart, right? We don't have to say things right out. It's a mark of a non-serious person is when they come out and say things too clearly, because you know they're not going to do anything. By the way, I was going to say, I would love to write a book about this. I wish I could start this book today about what's going on right now. But I'm right in the middle of the Mafia book, and I can't stop that. Maybe when I get done with that, I'll start about the rising up of the South, the re-rising of the South as a result of this. But anyway, so we have a situation that can get enough people upset at the same time, the same thing. We have a national leader. We have that in Trump. And DeSantis and some other people. We're going to have, when the great things in our history happened, it wasn't just one person. It was never one person. It was enough leaders to come up and get together and to drive it. And then a martyr. Now we had a little bit of a martyr in Trump when he got clipped in the ear. They're still after him. But now we have a whole section of our country, millions of our countrymen who have been essentially martyred. Maybe not all killed, but financially destroyed, families destroyed, whatever. So my question is this. We hear a lot about the people rising up. Well, now we have a whole section of the country that has all been destroyed. I'm wondering whether enough of them who have been directly impacted, because those are the ones that it takes, the ones who have been directly impacted to rise up. Is that going to happen? Because if they did, I think there would be a great movement to support that. Okay. Somebody in North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, where I live, Nebraska, yeah, we empathize. But it's the people who are directly affected that need to rise up then to get the support of everyone else. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And so what I'm wondering is, and we have some good leaders down south, will they speak up? Will they rise up? Will they call for a national accounting? Will maybe they call for a separation, a national separation? Because they understand, like I said, and make no mistake about this, this government is trying to destroy the South, an entire section of our country. And if you look at it clearly and you allow yourself to consider it, I think you'll agree. Let's see what happens, huh? Is it time? We'll see. You all have a good day. I'm going to get back to writing my book because I'd love to start this one. This could be, I will say this right. This could be what brings on the next attempt at a separation, and it might be because of the stance of the military and the police. It might be successful. Okay? You all have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.